Hey everyone, we're live. Blue Raven here. It's Monday, July the 23rd, 2018, and I want to share a special broadcast here. I'm going to share a video. Yes, folks, we're living in the end days. The Nephilim are here. The Nephilim are here. They got these super soldiers. They're clones. They're being made in laboratories, cloning of super soldiers, Check out the videos below or check out the links below the video, and I posted the link where you can find the video that I'm going to play. And this is going to blow your mind. Nephilim super soldiers, cloned super soldiers created in labs being sent to the Middle East. Check this out. I'm going to get this video started. Stand by. All right, I'm going to get this video started here and play this for you all. Wrong one. Sorry about that. All right, let me get the right video up here. I cannot find it now. Yeah, I can't pull up the video. I may have to start the stream over again. I might have to start a new stream. All right, I'm going to try this again. Stand by. All right, I think I got this. Let me check. Yeah, okay, I got it up on the screen. Okay, stand by. I'm going to play this video here so y'all can check it out and listen for yourselves. It's Rick Wiles, True News. What happened here? Okay, I think I got it back up on the screen, I believe. Okay, all right, here it goes. True News, Rick Wiles. Genetically modified soldiers. These soldiers are over 7 foot tall, over 7 feet tall. They're sending them to Syria, to the Middle East. And you can listen for yourselves. Rick Wiles, True News.
I'm Rick Wiles. French President Macron says he has proof Syria used chemical weapons. Moscow says Russian military will protect its soldiers in Syria from U.S. missiles. China mounts massive live fire Navy drill in show of support for Russia. Iranian commander vows to destroy Israel if a war erupts. President Assad's advisor says Syria is ready for war with America and Israel will be the biggest loser. And Syrian ambassador to the United Nations made a cryptic reference to American genetically modified super soldiers fighting in his country. Your True News team of Doc Burkhart, Edward Zoll, and I will analyze this madness as the world races toward World War III. Other than those headlines, Doc, it's just a slow news day. Not much going on in the world.
Yeah, we're on the edge of thermonuclear war breaking out in the Middle East, and now we're talking about genetically modified soldiers. That was a surprise statement by the Syrian UN ambassador.
Yes, we have a video of the ambassador making this cryptic reference to genetically modified soldiers. We'll talk about it in a few minutes, but right now we'll talk about the latest information that we have regarding a possible war in Syria. As we are recording today's True News, you know, the news bulletins that we're seeing in recent minutes is that President Trump and his military advisors and national security advisors have met today, and announcements are going to be made very soon. So by the time our audience sees this program, we could be in war.
Right.
Hopefully, calmer minds will prevail, and God will intervene, and we're not going to war, because this is not going to end well for anybody. From what I'm seeing in my research today, the U.S. is putting together the biggest invasion force, the largest coalition, the biggest invasion force since the invasion of Iraq. Now, that's what the Times in London is reporting today. It says the United States is amassing the largest air and naval strike force since the Iraq War in 2003 to be ready for attacks on Syria if the president gives the go-ahead. The extensive military force, which could soon be in striking distance of Syria, will have to outfox sophisticated Russian air defense radars. So this is not like, you know, last year when President Trump issued a limited missile strike on a Syrian Air Force base.
Right.
This is
an invasion force.
That's what I wanted to. Are we talking about a land invasion?
Full-blown war. And the part of this that is shocking, Rick, is that
we're talking about invading Syria.
Yes, more than we already have, because there are U.S. troops, there are already French troops, but what you're referring to is the actual armament, the actual use of tanks, jets, ground troops. I mean, they could enter an actual Syrian city, much like ISIS did through the last 5 years, 6 years of the civil war in that country. We could wake up sometime this week, and this NATO coalition could be in charge of Damascus.
And just to think, it was just several weeks ago that President Trump was saying, we're pulling troops out of Syria. We're de-escalating there.
How did this, folks, what happened? Less than 2 weeks ago, President Trump says, we're getting out of Syria soon. Let other countries mess with it. We're done. We're coming home. And we applauded the president when he said it. Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, let's get it done. 2 weeks later, we're going into World War III. Now, what happened, folks? I'll tell you what happened. The deep state, what I call the perpetual war, corruption, sleaze, pedophilia party that controls America, they went into action right away, because President Trump, he was loose. He got out of the White House. He made this comment, speaking to factory workers in Ohio. They didn't have the chain on him. They didn't have the muzzle on his mouth. And so he says, hey, we're leaving. We're getting out of Syria. The deep state had to go into action right away. And so they staged a fake chemical attack, exactly what the Russians said was coming. They did a fake chemical attack. And then immediately, John McCain says, Putin did it because President Trump said he's going to withdraw troops from Syria. That's why Putin did it, because President Trump was weak, and that made Putin bold. And so right away now, President Trump is faced with, they're going to accuse me of being Putin's stooge. I got to act tough. I got to be a bad guy now. I got to go to war. So I'm going to get on my Twitter account and start making threats of sending shiny new missiles to Syria. Folks, this is crazy behavior. all of them involved there's some degree of insanity involved here. We have people that are rushing to war. And in 2 weeks' time, we've gone from announcing the withdrawal of American troops, our troops that last year they denied were there.
Right.
All right. Last year they were denying that we had troops there. Under Obama, they denied it. All right. President Trump admitted we had troops in Syria. But 2 weeks ago, we're withdrawing troops. Now we're invading. We're invading Syria, according to these reports.
You know, Rick, looking into this, reminded back, do you remember in January when President Trump also said we're going to stop arming ISIS? There was a report that came out that we were no longer going to give weapons to one of the factions, the Free Syrian Army. Well, remember that Haaretz article in February that claimed Israel took up where the U.S. left off and began arming 7 Sunni Islamic factions in the region. When you think, well, what's happened this year? Turkey has also, since January, invaded Syria under the grounds that they are fighting ISIS. They're doing essentially what the United States won't do. Now, all of these powers are involved in what appears to be, as you said, the largest coalition since the coalition to invade Iraq.
That's right.
It's time to carve up Syria.
That's right. I said this last year. I said they're going to carve up Syria. The motto is going to be, going to get me some Syria.
Right.
Everybody's saying, I'm going to get me some Syria. The United States is going to get some Syria. Israel's going to get some Syria. Turkey's going to get some Syria. France is getting some Syria. Russia's getting some Syria. But the poor Syrian people, they're going to lose their country.
Yes.
They're going to lose their country. They've pretty much lost it already. It's been destroyed. So according to the Times, I'm going by the graphic chart that they produced. 27,300 U.S. troops will be involved in this invasion. 27,000 U.S. troops. All right. 1,700 French troops. We got F-16s, A-10 Thunderbolts, C-130s, C-17s, drones, Apache helicopters. Great Britain's bringing in Tornado fighter bombers, Eurofighter, Typhoon jets, Sentinel spy planes, Voyager tanker aircraft, and let's not forget submarines.
That's right.
There's going to be a lot of submarines in the Mediterranean.
And remember the report yesterday, there's a sub killer on its way too.
That's right. So this is going to be an all-out war that, whether this thing stays conventional for the duration of the war or whether it just gets totally out of control and nukes start flying, nobody knows.
Well, the Russian chief of staff has said, General Gerasimov said, if one Russian soldier is killed, Russia will respond in kind. When you have this much going on,
actually, what he said was, if Russian blood is shed in Syria, American blood will be shed.
And he didn't say where.
And he didn't say in Syria. He just said American blood would be shed.
That's correct. When you look at this number, Rick, this is a very low number of troops compared to the 27,000 troops compared to the 200 or 300,000 we used in Iraq. It makes you wonder if it's going to be a direct shot toward Damascus. So where do you think these troops are going to come from? Or do you think we've been building up troops in Jordan, for example? Or do you think this is something that, like the Iwo Jima and other troops have
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, 2 years ago, remember the 650,000 man Sunni army?
Right.
That they had amassed. 650,000 Arab soldiers were ready to invade Syria, and suddenly it was called off. And again, I can only assume that Vladimir Putin made a phone call to Riyadh and said, we'll use a neutron bomb. Because that would be the only thing that would stop it, a neutron bomb.
Yes.
Just wipe them out. One blast and you kill all the soldiers at one time. Edward, you said to me that there was an incident. Well, let me first talk about the capture of the UK soldiers.
Yes. So this is according to Fars news agency. It's based out of Iran and Sputnik. In March, while the controversy around East Ghouta, which is a suburb of Damascus, the capital of Syria, while there was a push against ISIS in that region, Sputnik and Fars news agency is now reporting that British forces, military soldiers, were captured in those suburbs. And they claimed after speaking to the soldiers, potentially even interrogating these soldiers, that there was a planned invasion of Damascus that was supposed to occur in and around March 15th by NATO, Jordanese, Israeli soldiers, and with a U.S. contingent, but it was foiled by both the Russian and Syrian advance in East Ghouta. Remember back the reports we got, it was pretty much a daily occurrence that they were claiming the Russians and Syrians were killing civilians in East Ghouta. Right. Remember, this was in March, around the same time the Skripal chemical attack was being talked about. But the part that was interesting is the Russians didn't stop their advance, and they took over the entire region. What Files News Agency and Sputnik is reporting is that this stopped an invasion, or at least it looks like delayed it till now.
And Mr. Pompeo, the CIA director going to the State Department, in his Senate testimony, his confirmation hearing, he made a reference to hundreds of Russian soldiers dying recently in Syria. And he didn't clarify what happened. He just made a reference that there were hundreds of Russian soldiers that had been killed. So there is an active war that's been taking place between the United States and Russia for several months in Syria, and it's been under the radar, and it's about to erupt into full-scale fighting at this point.
So up to this point, there's been the fighting going back and forth between the different powers, but they've kept the diplomatic cover on it for the time being. Yeah. But that cover is about to be blown.
Yeah. Now the gangs are coming out into the streets. This is going to be a fist fight in the streets now. Maria Zakharova, who is the spokesperson for the foreign ministry in Russia, she said today, she told Sky News in London, that Russia will protect its people on the ground in Syria if U.S. missiles are launched. And she said it's what any nation would do.
Sure.
Well, how do you protect them? You're going to fight back.
Right, yes. And not only are they going to fight back against the forces where they show up, but the source of any of the attack. I mean, that's going to be missile launchers, that's going to be ships, that's going to be aircraft.
That's right.
So there's going to be a price to pay. Are we willing to pay that price, really?
We're going to find out very soon. DEPCA file in Israel reporting that Vladimir Putin had a very sharp worded telephone conversation with Benjamin Netanyahu, basically told him, cool his jets, stay out of Syria. And according to this report, Mr. Netanyahu told Vladimir Putin, we'll do whatever we have to do to stop Iran. So you've got Israel now getting involved. Well, they've been involved. It's not like they're getting involved. They've been involved. They've been attacking Syria for years. But now, Putin has not done anything to stop Israeli jets. He's tried to mediate the situation, allowing them to fly in to attack certain targets. But I get the feeling that the Kremlin is just fed up with the Israelis doing their bombing runs into Syria, especially when you get Russian soldiers in these bases. And the Russians see that this thing's spiraling out of control. What Israel did last Sunday was just tossing gasoline on a fire. They've heated this thing up. Look how hot this has gotten since last Sunday with the Israeli attack.
Something has to be done now.
Yes. Well, because Iran says they're going to get even.
That's right.
And that's what it comes down to. This is a long stated goal by both the Iranians and the Israelis that they want to kill each other. One wants their territory. The other one, Israel, be happy for Iran to get nuked either by themselves or by the United States.
And I just want the United States to keep their nose out of the whole thing. If the Israelis and the Iranians want to hate each other and fight each other, that's their business. Keep me out of it. I don't want in their wars.
But we're in it, Rick.
We're in it. You know why we're in it? Well, we know why. Because the Israeli lobby owns Washington, D.C. So that's why.
When this fire starts in Syria, it's going to be a brush fire all through the Middle East, right?
You better believe it. And that's what people are talking about. An advisor to Bashar Assad, president of Syria, she said today that Syria is ready for war with America. But if this war happens, Israel will be the biggest loser. Because what she's clearly stating is, once this war, they're telling America, you go ahead and start this war. Syria can't defeat
the United
States. But there's going to be a lot of damage done to Israel. And then you have the Iranians that are going to get in this thing. And the Iranians can do massive damage to Israel. Israel could do massive damage to Iran. And we're looking at the use of nuclear weapons, because if Iran and Israel start fighting, this thing's going to go nuclear in seconds. Israel's not going to sit there and be pounded by Iranian missiles and from Hezbollah missiles coming in from Lebanon and Syria. They're not going to sit there. They're going to launch nukes against Iran.
And in many ways, they're looking for that opportunity.
Absolutely. They want to take out Tehran, because then they don't have to deal with Iranians. They can move in, take the soil. All right, it's about land. This is land conquest. But people are going to die.
Yes.
And both sides are just red hot right now, and each side is threatening to attack the other side. And again, the United States of America, we've got our nose in everybody's business. And the United States should just get out of it. We have no interest in Syria.
Right.
But I can name certain wealthy Americans that have financial interest in gas pipelines in Syria.
Especially the Golan Heights.
Yes, that's right. And it always comes down. It always comes down to oil and gas and banking. Now, here's where this thing really ramped up today. In a surprise move, I'm reading from the South China Morning Post in Hong Kong. In a surprise move, China to mount live-fire Navy drills in Taiwan Strait.
Yes.
In show of support for Russia over Syria.
Now listen to that. In show of support for Russia.
Over Syria.
Yes.
This isn't China saying, hey, we're doing a drill over here because we're big and bad in the Taiwan Strait. They're saying we're doing this to show the United States we will come into this war on the side of Russia.
Yes.
This just happened a few hours ago. So in a surprise move, Beijing announced on Thursday it would hold live fire drills in the Taiwan Strait next week, something that is both a message to Taipei and a show of geopolitical support for Russia during its time of friction with the United States. So what I've read in some other articles is this is the biggest Chinese live fire Navy drill in the South China Sea in history.
Oh, yeah. So you look at the components to this drill, it's 80 aircraft, including bombers, 10,000 soldiers. And then this will be the first live fire drill involving China's aircraft.
I'm going to pause the video there for a minute. I may have the wrong one up. I'm going to pause that for a minute. I'm going to scroll down here. I may have to do a part 2, but I think I'll leave this video up there. When you scroll down here, right here, Syria tells UN America has genetically modified super soldiers deployed in the country. And I'm going to go ahead and read some of this. Today, we explore a claim by Syria's ambassador to the UN implying that the Western-backed jihadists, backed by the United States and Israel, terrorizing Syria, terrorizing his nation, may have been created in the abominable labs of DARPA. Fallen angel technology. They're going to lie to a lot of people. A lot of people are going to be deceived thinking that they're little green men from outer space, and they're fallen angels. They're demonic entities. They're fallen angels. And it says this was a little older broadcast from April the 12th. It says the team also details America's invasion plans for Damascus, including a coalition-led ground assault, and we discussed the significance of China hosting live fire naval drills in support of Russia. And I posted the link below the video. I'm going to play more of this. I believe this is the correct video. I may have to do a part 2, but I believe this is the correct video. I'm going to play some more here.
And Liaoning. And as you said here, the Chinese, all I've got to know is the Chinese actually committed soldiers to be deployed in Syria earlier this year. We don't know if those troops were actually deployed, but it was called the Tiger Brigade. A special forces unit was going to be deployed. China's justification for this, Rick, is that the Middle East is a core component to the One Belt, One Road initiative. They're a foundation of the New Silk Road. If they have a direct interest in there not being a nuclear war on their doorstep upon what would they see as the future of their economy, their civilization.
Well, also, China sees the U.S., the deep state, marching, going through the Middle East, gobbling up nations, attacking, very aggressive, attacking nations. They know that the U.S. is moving towards attacking Russia at some day. Well, once they take down Russia, who's next? China.
China, that's right.
And if you take out China and Russia, then whoever controls the United States controls the world for the next 500 years.
And what's unique about what's going on in the South China Sea right now is President Xi Jinping, they actually did a maritime military parade of ships, signaling out to all the nations in Southeast Asia and the Asian region, this is who we are, this is where we're at, and we're going to defend this part of the world.
What's the likelihood that if war breaks out with the United States and Russia over Syria, that China makes a move for Taiwan in the middle of the war?
I think it's very likely. During the statements made by Xi Jinping at the Chinese Congress hearing this past month, he said that China's one China policy, which includes ownership over Taiwan, is not just an imperative, but it is sovereign right of Beijing.
Yeah, but would they move that fast in a war? Would they say, this is our opportunity? The United States is up to its eyeballs in alligators fighting Russia, and we're going to seize Taiwan because they can't fight two of us at the same time.
I guess they're going to wait to see what happens in the Middle East. If the U.S. appears weak in any way, there's their opportunity.
But I would say it right in the middle of the war.
Sure.
The moment the first missiles start flying, I could easily see China make a move for Taiwan. Now the Pentagon has to decide, are we also going to Taiwan? How many of these wars can we fight?
And let's not forget, there's still 300,000 Chinese troops sitting on the North Korean border, too, waiting.
That's right. So are you thinking they would move south towards...
If they saw the opportunity, why not? If they saw that the U.S. interest was divided or that they were taking a hit, why wouldn't they take advantage of that?
All right. I got to move on to this really weird story. The ambassador, the Syrian ambassador to the United Nations, Dr. Bashar Jafari, made a cryptic remark a few days ago at the United Nations. He was talking about that, his nation was being falsely accused, that these were false flag, fake chemical attacks. And so you were listening to his comments, and it sounds normal what he's saying. But then he mentioned genetically modified entities.
Yes.
And I had to stop and rewind and listen to it again. Listen to it again. Listen to it again. I want to play the video. Again, this is Syria's ambassador to the United Nations. We're only going to play the part where he's talking about genetically modified somethings in his country. Watch this.
Say to Saudi Arabia today that we eliminated its terrorist tentacles in eastern Ghouta, and I mean Jaish al-Islam gangs. Yes, we say to Qatar and Turkey that we eliminated their terrorist tentacles in eastern Ghouta, and I mean Al-Nusra Front gangs and Faylaq al-Rahman gangs. And I say to all those who exported to us armed, moderate, genetically modified opposition that we eliminated these toxic exports, and we call upon those exporters to bear the consequences of their actions, as some elements who survived would return to their original countries.
All right, Doc, we've been doing True News a long time.
This is one of the weirdest things I've ever reported on.
Yeah.
Did he say that the U.S. or some Western country exported genetically modified soldiers into his country?
Yes, he referred to them as chemical weapons. Toxic substances in his country.
Nephilim. They're
Modern
Nephilim.
That's what it would be.
That's what we're dealing with. He's talking about Nephilim. The Nephilim are back.
This isn't the only time he said that either. I mean, he's made that reference before.
When did he say it?
In 2016, the same ambassador, referring again to the jihadists, the ones that Saudi Arabia's put in, other people who've been armed, he brought this up in regard to Aleppo. He said that genetically modified fighters are being used and exported into his country. We actually have that clip too. He said this at the United Nations.
And this is 2016.
2016.
All right, let's watch this one too.
The Syrian government is still ready to evacuate remaining unlawful armed groups in the terrorist pockets in the eastern part of Aleppo. And it has organized yesterday a convoy to evacuate 3,750 terrorists and their families. Unfortunately, some member states in the Security Council and the mainstream media continue to defend and support the genetically modified armed Syrian opposition, moderate by definition, while turning a blind eye to the crimes committed by them.
Genetically modified soldiers in the Middle East.
The jihadists, he's talking about ISIS.
Yes.
He called them genetically modified. I mean, this is, they're Nephilim.
Right.
Now, in 2015, ISIS, one of the most shocking executions was when ISIS beheaded 21 Egyptian Coptic Christian men.
Right.
And I remember a lot of people talking about how tall these men were.
Right.
Because people were saying, hey, those aren't Arabs. They're too tall. They look like American basketball players. We've got a video. I want to go ahead. We'll show it, and we'll just keep talking. But this is what they were referring to, that these men looked abnormally tall for being Arab soldiers.
Right. Clearly taller than their captains. Because you look at the head. The head doesn't even come up to the shoulders of some of these soldiers.
I mean, you're talking about 7.5 foot tall terrorists here in this video.
So now we're talking, think about this, was the ISIS invasion, which came from, I mean, it just appeared, ISIS, it just appeared. Right. Nobody had ever heard of ISIS. And they're going through Syrian and Iraqi towns, cutting off people's heads and slaughtering people. Did America produce these creatures in laboratories? Did we grow these things and then turn them loose on the Christians in the Middle East? Dear God, how wicked and evil are we?
And for the Syrian ambassador to come out publicly and say something like that, saying these are genetically modified entities, soldiers, terrorists operating in this region. I mean, I was shocked to hear that today. This is the first time I had heard anything about this.
Well, you know, months ago, President Putin talked. He told students in Russia that nations were developing super soldiers that would have no fear, would be able to go through all kinds of pain. So this is not
concept. It's not even outlandish.
No. World leaders are openly talking about it, folks. We've entered the twilight zone. We've entered the last days. Jesus Christ is coming. You got to get ready, church. You got to get ready. Jesus Christ is coming. Don't be sitting there waiting on a secret rapture. Jesus Christ is coming. We've got to preach the gospel now. God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, I'm going to stop that. Stand by here. All right, you heard it yourself right there. Genetically modified soldiers, genetically modified super soldiers. Folks, they even had this on the X-Files. All right, I'm trying to get back on camera here. All right, I want to share that video. Look below the links. When I go off air, there's 2 more links I forgot. I'm going to post a link for Russ Dizdar's book. It's also about the same topic. It's called The Black Awakening. And there was a video that I watched just recently of Russ Dizdar, and they're saying that they are tracking all across the United States, all in every major city in the United States. They got sleeper cells, super soldiers right now in every major city. You can't make this stuff up. And also, and I'm going to post Russ Dizdar, and there's another link I'm going to try to find to post below. And also, don't forget to check us out on Twitter. I posted our Twitter link. You can find us on Twitter at Blue Raven USA. And that's going to do it for me. I'm Blue Raven here. Today is Monday, July 23rd, 2018. Thank you for listening. Blue Raven signing off.